Mauro, Senior Fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, joins us again. Good to see you. I don't know what we do about this. So we have a deadline. It appears they're still talking, which is a good thing, but the words are tough still.
Well, I think that indeed the deadline is approaching, and it is often the case in negotiations that the posturing continues until the last minute. I do expect that there will be a deal 5 minutes before midnight, and it seems like midnight really means this weekend. The Eurogroup finance ministers will meet on Saturday. Chancellor Angela Merkel said that she wants a deal completed before the markets open on Monday morning.
And that's because they're worried that there could be a problem with the banks. That's
a possible interpretation. She didn't elaborate, but certainly the thinking is that the deal had to be completed this week, and this week finishes on Sunday by definition. So I think everybody is expecting that this is the deadline.
Okay, so it's fair to say you are optimistic that there will be a deal.
Well, based on press reports, what we see is that the differences on the wording of the deal and the associated policies don't seem to be that big in the grand scheme of things. We're talking about details on particular tax rates or particular tax exemptions, the speed with which certain reforms in the pension system have to be taken. So it seems like there's a convergence of the two sides. Certainly the tone of the discussions is still not that great, but I'm hopeful that there will be a meeting of minds.
I have heard these words thrown out there: debt restructuring, debt relief. I imagine there's all this money that Greece, $240 billion, Greece owes essentially, and a big part of that is coming due. They want to restructure it. Explain to us what they mean by restructure. They want a reduction in it, or they want to extend the time they have to pay it off?
Well, first of all, a lot of that money is lent by the Europeans to Greece and over a period of 30, 40 years. So the actual principal repayment doesn't become due for a very long time. What is pressing now is payments to the International Monetary Fund and in July and August to the European Central Bank. But most of the Greek debt is actually at very long maturity. When they talk about debt restructuring, essentially they're talking about a further reduction of the interest rate, which is already very low, or perhaps even an extension of the maturities even further. My impression is that by virtue of the fact that there seems to be an agreement on the number for the fiscal primary surplus, 1% this year, 2% next year, 3% the following year, and then pretty much stable, that kind of firms up the possible amounts of debt relief. So I think the discussions are more about how do we actually implement getting that amount of primary surplus.
Okay, so there are two scenarios for our audience. At the end of this weekend, either they have a deal at the last minute, as you say, in the final few minutes, or they don't have a deal. If they have a deal, we're not having another conversation because then it seems to be okay. But what if, for whatever reason, they don't get to a deal, midnight hits, what's going to happen? I guess why should we be nervous about this?
Well, actually, there is an intermediate step, which is that assume that there is a deal, then part of that deal will be that there has to be some legislation implemented, or rather signed, by the Greek parliament in the next few days. Ideally, actually, it would be done on Sunday or Monday morning. And it's very difficult politically for the Greek parliament to approve this. In particular, it may be difficult for the current Greek governing coalition, which consists of Syriza, which is an extreme left party, and the Independent Greeks, a small minority there, which are extreme right, actually. And it's possible that some members of parliament, some of the members of that governing coalition will not go along with some of the measures that might be included in the deal, and therefore there might have to be some government reshuffle.
That might be the compromise, is what you're saying.
Tsipras might actually have to rely on the votes of others in parliament.
Now, in fairness, the last time we had this deadline, we know what happened because we talked about it, is that they decided to just push the deadline further out and kind of combine the payments. Could they not do that again and say they push it out into September or even October for that matter?
No, because it's been made very clear that particularly a deadline of a payment to the International Monetary Fund, there's a policy that that has never been extended. So that is a firm deadline. And the amount is significant. We're talking about 1.7 billion. So I think this is midnight.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, you'll be watching this very closely for us, Paolo. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.